In today's video, I am going to share important questions of most scoring portion of science, that is biology. Why is it more scoring? Because it has more weightage than physics and chemistry, that is 28 marks, and the number of chapters are also less. Like chapter number 60, chapter number 6, life processes. This chapter is coming in full. Lesson 7 has been deleted. Lesson number 8, how do organisms reproduce? This chapter is also coming in full. Lesson 9, only half chapter is coming and the half chapter has been deleted. Now lesson number 15, our environment. That chapter is very simple and easy, so you can consider it as half only. So in total, only 3 chapters are there for the total weightage of 28 marks. One more reason is there that the questions are quite direct and they don't require much reading and analysis as compared to physics and chemistry. So you can give priority revision to biology and you can improve your score. So let's start today's session.
So first question is, write the raw material for photosynthesis. The answer is carbon dioxide, water, sunlight and chlorophyll. So you have to write all these 4 things. If you skip any one, then you will be losing full marks. In case it comes for 1 mark, you won't get even half mark. Write the chemical equation for photosynthesis. So that is 6CO2 plus 6H2O. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, glucose is formed, which is the food of plant, with the byproduct oxygen 6O2. So this is the balanced chemical equation. In case it is asked that you write the chemical equation, it is expected that you should write balanced chemical equation for the same. And one more thing, that which are the 2 requirements for photosynthesis. This may also come. 2 requirements then means sunlight and chlorophyll, because their presence is necessary. In case they ask for the raw material, then like answer number 1, you have to write the name of all these 4 substances. Another question they may be asked that what is the stored form of glucose in plant? So that is starch. And how do you test the presence of starch? Which chemical is used? That is iodine. So these are few more short questions which you should also revise. Now the question number 3, what are the tiny pores, the name of tiny pores on the lower surface of leaves? That is stomata. And what about their function? So they are required for gaseous exchange and for transpiration, that is loss of water. Now the largest gland associated with alimentary canal or human digestive system, that is liver. Liver is the largest gland. And these are basically 1 or 2 marker question which I am discussing first. Hair-like structures in the small intestine to increase the surface area for maximum absorption of digested food. So they are villi, they are hair-like structures on the inner surface of small intestine. Now the question number 6, site of complete digestion in human digestive system, where the food gets completely digested. All the 3 parts, 3 components, carbohydrate, proteins and fats, they are completely digested, and that organ or site is small intestine. Carrier of oxygen in human blood is hemoglobin. In case of deficiency of hemoglobin, that is the disease anemia. A person starts feeling weak early and he gets fatigued early, because the oxygen is not reaching the cells in sufficient quantities because of the lack of hemoglobin, which is the carrier of oxygen. Now question number 8, components of human blood and their functions. So red blood cells, RBCs, white blood cells, WBCs and platelets. Sometimes their functions are also asked. These are the solid components. Red blood cells, they contain hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is the carrier of oxygen. White blood cells, they build immunity, provide resistance to disease. Platelets, they help in the clotting of blood. You already are aware about the clotting of blood, because the blood doesn't flow easily and in much quantity in case of any wound. So it stops the blood there by forming a clot. And plasma is the fluid part in which all these 3 solid components are embedded. Now question number 9 is tissue for the conduction of water in plant, that is xylem, and tissue for the conduction of food in plant, that is phloem. You discussed and you studied about these 2 tissues in class 9 in much detail, but here only 1 mark, in 1 marker question only their names can be asked. Now structural and functional unit of kidney, that is nephron. The diagram भी nephron का बहुत important है, which we'll be discussing later on. Female sex hormone, that is estrogen, and male sex hormone, that is testosterone. Sorry, it is hormone, it is not hormones. Only one hormone, male sex hormone, that is testosterone. Their names are directly asked for 1 mark. Now question number 14, in female reproductive system, these 3 are the functions of these parts. We will be discussing a diagram later on. And what about the ovaries? This is the site of formation of ovum. The ova get mature here. Ova is the plural form of ovum. Site of fertilization, that is fallopian tube. In fallopian tube, the ova comes out from the ovaries and sperms meet there. So site of fertilization is not uterus. Most of the time students write this answer as uterus. That is completely wrong. In fallopian tube, fertilization takes place. And the site of embryo development, that is uterus, because in case the fertilization takes place successfully and the zygote is formed, that moves to the uterus and sticks to the wall of uterus and develops there into embryo. Question number 15, site of sperm formation in male reproductive system. These are testes. And disease spread through sexual transmission, HIV/AIDS, syphilis and gonorrhea. Write the full form of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, and AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. See the difference in these two full forms. In HIV, immunodeficiency word is combined, and in AIDS, immuno is separate and deficiency is a separate word. ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Question number 18, and what is ATP? ATP is the unit of energy which is formed in cells of organisms as the unit of energy, as energy. So these are the packets or units of energy in living bodies. During monohybrid cross of a tall plant and a short plant, you already know that tall plant has the genotype capital T, and this is a case of Mendel's experiment which he did with pea plant, and the short plant has the genotype small t. Now you have to give the phenotype and genotype of F1 generation. So this monohybrid cross we will be discussing later on in much detail ki how this phenotype has come or how this genotype has come. But here in MCQs or in one marker, these questions may be asked directly. So phenotype will be all tall plants and the genotype will be capital T small t, from one parent capital T and from the other parent small t. Then this question came I think 2 years back, and what the students did, just for the 1 mark they showed the whole monohybrid cross, and one head examiner from the CBSE, they pointed out that please guide your student that they should write only precise answers, because for 1 mark they are covering the full page in describing how this phenotype and genotype has come, but you just have to give the names or that particular answer. Don't show the full cross, I mean to say this thing. Now all tall plants, this is F1 generation, and about F2 generation the question may be asked. So in F2 generation, when F1 generation plants capital T small t, they will be crossed with each other, then the phenotype will be 3 tall and 1 short, and genotype will be 1:2:1. That is capital T के chances 1 and capital T small t के chances 2 and small t के chances 1 है out of the 4 total chances. So in that situation, phenotype means the appearance, how the plants will be appearing externally, and genotype means what is the combination of genes inside the cells or inside the nucleus. Phenotype of F2 generation in dihybrid cross. Dihybrid cross has been explained in detail in your NCERT book, in your syllabus, but this question comes only for 1 mark and this phenotypic ratio is asked. So you have to cram it directly. Then in F2 generation in dihybrid cross, round and yellow seeds ki ratio 9, round and green seeds 3, wrinkled and yellow seeds 3, wrinkled and green seeds 1. So 9:3:3:1. This thing, cram it as it is. 9:3:3:1. That is the dihybrid cross. Wherever you see dihybrid cross, this word in the question, wherever you find it, just put this ratio. 9:3:3:1. Write the full form of CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbon, and these are the questions from lesson 15, our environment. UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, and this program came in 1987 to limit the emission of CFCs. It was an agreement between a Kyoto Protocol was recalled, it was framed, and the agreeing countries, they agreed on this thing that they will limit the CFC emission to the 1986 level. So this question may be asked for 1 mark. Then in which year UNEP was framed? So this program was launched in 1987. Where is CFC used? Chlorofluorocarbons are used in refrigerators and in fire extinguishers. In a food chain, how much energy is transferred to the next level? So at every level, from plants to herbivores and from herbivores to carnivores and then to top carnivores, only 10% of the energy at that level is transferred to the next level. Increase in the amount of harmful chemicals in the bodies of organisms from one trophic level to another in a food chain. The amount of harmful chemicals like pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, they go on increasing in the bodies of higher trophic levels. So that phenomenon is known as biomagnification. Arteries take away oxygen rich blood from heart to other organs. This is the function of arteries. But which artery is an exception to this? Means it takes away the blood away from heart, but that is not oxygen rich, that is carbon dioxide rich or deoxygenated blood. So that is pulmonary artery. Pulmonary word is associated with lungs. So pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. Otherwise, arteries take oxygen rich blood or oxygenated blood from heart to other organs or other parts of the body. That is the usual function of arteries, but this is an exception. In the same way, veins carry deoxygenated blood from the different organs to the heart. Different organs से ये collect करते हैं and heart में ले आते हैं. Veins होती हैं वो blood vessels, they carry deoxygenated blood. But which vein is an exception to this? So that is pulmonary vein, because it brings oxygenated blood from lungs to heart. Fine. And about the arteries and veins, difference is also important, which we will discuss later on. But this question may come in 1 mark. Write the function of each. Enzyme pepsin, so it is required for the digestion of proteins and it is secreted in stomach. The digestion of protein starts in stomach. This question may also come because from every line of NCERT many questions can be framed. But still I have shortlisted these round about 50 questions which have the more probability of coming in exams. Now the function of hydrochloric acid, it makes the medium acidic for the enzyme to act. Enzyme pepsin won't act if the medium is not acidic, because in the mouth saliva makes the medium. Saliva contains salivary amylase which requires basic medium. So when food goes in stomach, it requires acidic medium because pepsin enzyme has to act. It acts only in acidic medium. And one more function of hydrochloric acid is it kills the bacteria coming with the food. Mucus is also secreted from the inner wall of stomach because it protects the inner wall of stomach from hydrochloric acid, from the harmful effect of acid. Otherwise it may corrode. In case a person feels acidity more frequently, then that acid will have harmful effect on the inner wall of the stomach. It will corrode, and ulcers, you must have heard about this word, that ulcers are caused due to the excessive secretion of hydrochloric acid. So one must take healthy food, fresh food and non-spicy foods, non-oily foods. So these are the three secretions: pepsin, hydrochloric acid and mucus. They are released in stomach. Sometimes this question may be asked, what are the secretions in stomach and their functions? Now the function of bile juice. Bile juice is secreted from liver, the largest gland, and it is stored in gallbladder, and from there it is secreted into small intestine. It is required for the digestion of fats. Fats का digestion small intestine में ही start होता है, and this process is known as emulsification. Large जो globules हैं fats के, उनको small droplets में convert करता है, that is emulsification. Villi, we have already revised this question. Villi are the hair-like structures on the inner surface of small intestine, but the function is, why these structures are provided in the small intestine? Because they increase surface area for maximum absorption of digested food in small intestine. In small intestine, the food is completely digested, and from there blood will take that digested food to all parts of the body. So to increase the surface area for maximum absorption of food, villi are present. Now septum is the dividing wall in human heart between the right and the left part. It keeps separate the oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. As you very well know that the left part of the heart receives deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body, and the right part receives oxygenated blood from the lungs. So oxygenated flows through right part of the heart and deoxygenated flows through left part of the heart. So these two kinds of blood should be kept separate in warm blooded animals like us, because we have to maintain the temperature. Our body temperature should be at 37 degrees Celsius. We are not cold blooded whose temperature varies according to the external surroundings. So to maintain the body temperature we need more energy, and that's why oxygenated and deoxygenated blood should not mix with each other. That's why septum has been provided by the nature. Now the valves are present in veins and also in heart to prevent the backflow of blood, because in veins they carry deoxygenated blood from the all parts of the body and they pump it into the heart. So the blood is flowing with less pressure. In arteries, the blood flows with more pressure. In veins, blood flows with less pressure. It should not flow back. That's why valves are present there. They are like the doors कि blood आगे चला गया, then they get closed. फिर blood आगे चला गया तो पीछे से दरवाजे बंद हो जाते हैं. Prostate and seminal vesicles, they are the part of male reproductive system. Their secretions provide nutrition to sperms and they make their movement easy. The next question is testes. They produce sperms and they produce male sex hormone testosterone. Ovaries in the female reproductive system, they produce eggs or ova and they produce female sex hormone, that is estrogen. These are the two functions of ovaries. Now ozone layer, it prevents harmful ultraviolet rays from reaching the earth's surface and thus protect us from all kinds of skin diseases. So ozone layer has a very important role. Now placenta is a disc-like structure formed in uterus after the fertilization. In case the fertilization is successful, zygote is formed. Zygote moves to uterus and sticks to the wall of uterus and start developing into embryo. So disc-like structure is also formed in the uterus, from where the exchange of material takes place between mother's blood and the embryo for its development. So it provides surface for the exchange of materials between embryo and mother. Disc-like structure, it should be mentioned compulsorily. Disc-like structure. Sometimes its definition is also asked. And in case its definition is asked, you must write the function with it. Rings of cartilages, they are present in the windpipe to ensure that air passage does not collapse when no air is there. Even when there is no air, suppose we have stopped our breathing like this, in that situation also that air passage, that windpipe doesn't collapse because of the rings of cartilages. Now question number 27, it is give reasons. The first part is wall of ventricles are thicker than that of auricles or atria in the heart, because they need to pump blood with more pressure into various organs. Now the structure of heart is in your front on the screen. So the upper portions are called atria or auricles and the lower portions are called ventricles. So from ventricles the blood is pumped to reach the different parts of body. That's why the blood flows with more pressure and that's why they have thicker walls as compared to auricles, because auricles receive the blood whether from the lungs or whether from the other parts of body, but ventricles, they have to push the blood, they have to pump the blood out of heart. Not more than 3 to 4 trophic levels are there in any food chain, because we have already learnt it due to the 10% law. From one level to next level only 10% of energy is transferred. So in case there are more than 4 trophic levels, then what about the energy? Negligible amount of energy will be transferred to the fifth level. Suppose I take an example that plants have 10,000 joules of energy or kilojoules of energy. So from plants to herbivores only 1,000 joules will be transferred. Then from herbivores to carnivores again 10%, that is 100 joules. And then from carnivores to top carnivores or decomposers, how much energy will be transferred? 100 का भी 10 joule रह जाएगा. Then in case there is fifth trophic level, then to fifth trophic level organisms only 1 joule energy will be transferred and that is equal to nothing. That's why there cannot be more than 3 to 4 trophic levels in any food chain, because negligible energy would be left for the last level. I have tried to frame the answers in simple language, or I have kept them short as possible. Now write differences between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. I think you all must be aware about my way of presentation. Like I always write this type of questions as I write the bases on the left side and then the differences between two given concepts. So aerobic respiration, the first base is requires oxygen. So yes, anaerobic respiration, no. The second base is where it takes place, कहाँ होता है ये, site क्या है. So aerobic respiration takes place in mitochondria and anaerobic respiration takes place in cytoplasm. Amount of energy released in aerobic more, in anaerobic less. And अगर हम humans की बात करें तो aerobic में 38 ATP जो unit of energy 38 ATPs are produced, and in case in our muscles, in case anaerobic respiration takes place, that only 2 ATPs are produced. So products क्या हैं? Carbon dioxide and water. Completely the glucose is decomposed into carbon dioxide and water. But anaerobic respiration, ethanol plus carbon dioxide is produced in yeast, and that process is known as fermentation. And in human muscles, in case there is deficiency of oxygen, then anaerobic respiration takes place. Otherwise, we do aerobic respiration. So in that case, lactic acid is produced in muscles along with carbon dioxide. Now the difference between arteries and vein. So first of all, the basis is function. Arteries always carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygenated blood. Direction, artery, heart to organs. Arteries always take blood away from heart and they take the blood to organs, different organs of the body. But pulmonary artery, it is an exception. We have already talked about it. It carries deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. In that situation, it carries deoxygenated blood. Now veins carry deoxygenated blood from different organs to heart, but pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from lungs to heart. So veins bring in the blood and arteries take away the blood. Now the arteries have thick walls because the blood flows with more pressure. I have written the sixth basis, pressure of blood, more pressure in arteries. That's why the walls are thick, because these 2 points, the third and the sixth point, they can be combined and can be asked in the form of a question. Now veins have thin walls and the pressure of blood is low there. Walls are not present in arteries, but they are present in veins because to prevent the backflow of blood. We have already discussed this question. Now the positioning, arteries are located deep inside the skin and veins are on the surface. जो आपको यहाँ अपनी surface पे भी नज़र आती हैं, जहाँ से even आप blood test के लिए जाते हैं तो वो vein ही ढूंढ रहे होते हैं और वेन से वो ब्लड लेते हैं. जो आपको यहाँ सुपरफिशियली ग्रीन और ब्लू कलर की दिखती हैं, दे आर वेन्स. सो दे आर सुपरफिशियली सीटेड, काफ़ी ऊपर होती हैं वो स्किन में. Now the next difference is between self pollination and cross pollination. तो definition है transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of same flower, and cross pollination is transfer. देखो pollination means transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. But if the stigma is of same flower, then it is self pollination. If stigma is of other flower or of the same plant or the other flower of different plant, then it is क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन. मीन्स अगर स्टिग्मा अपने ही फ्लावर का है तब तो वो सेल्फ पॉलिनेशन है, बट अगर अपने प्लांट के दूसरे फ्लावर का है, अदर फ्लावर है बट चाहे भले ही अपने प्लांट का है, इवन देन हम उसे क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन ही कहते हैं. बायोडिग्रेडेबल एंड नॉन बायोडिग्रेडेबल, तो सब्सटेंसेस देखो नेम से क्लियर हो रहा है, डिग्रेडेबल जिन्हें डिग्रेड किया जा सकता है. बायो मीन्स लिविंग. सो सब्सटेंसेस विच कैन बी कन्वर्टेड टू सिंपलर सब्सटेंसेस बाय बैक्टीरिया, they are biodegradable. Non-biodegradable, the substances which cannot be converted to simpler substances by bacteria. Fruits and vegetable peels, paper, cotton, jute items, they are biodegradable. Plastic, glass, metals, polythene, they come under the category of non-biodegradable. Dominant trait and recessive trait, this question is from lesson number 9. So definition is the first basis. Those traits, those characteristics which for their expression, to get them expressed, only one copy of gene is sufficient. Like in case of tall plant, so capital T, small t, if the both copies are of same gene, capital T, then it will be tall plant for sure. But in case only one gene is of that type, even then that trait, that characteristic, that feature will be expressed, so that will be tall plant. And recessive trait, the trait or characteristic for the expression of which, or for the expression to get expressed, two copies of genes are required, means both should be of same type, only then that trait is expressed. So in case short plant, so small t both should be of same type. Unisexual flower, definition, only one reproductive part, either the stamen is present or pistil is present, means either the male part is present or female part is present. But in bisexual flowers, both the reproductive parts are present in same flower. Examples are papaya and watermelon, they have unisexual flowers. Mustard, hibiscus, or you can say China rose, they are bisexual flowers. Now, asexual reproduction, number of organisms required single organism is able to produce more organisms of its own kind. And in sexual reproduction, two organisms are required and they should be of opposite sex, that is male and female. Gametes are formed. In asexual, no gametes are formed. Sexual reproduction, yes, again male and female gametes are formed. What are gametes? Reproductive cells, special cells. New organisms is identical to the parent in asexual. In sexual reproduction it is similar in structure but not identical, बिल्कुल exact copy नहीं होता. वैसे exact और identical asexual में भी नहीं होता, certain variations are there but those variations are very minute. Now in case of asexual reproduction, variations जो produce होते हैं they are very less, and in sexual reproduction, because the two gametes are being fused, so more variations are produced. Now long answer questions. Benefits of vegetative propagation. It is useful for those plants which do not produce seeds or which have lost the capacity to produce seeds. भी अगर seeds नहीं produce कर रहे तो क्या reproduce भी नहीं कर सकते? No, they can reproduce. And vegetative propagation means they reproduce from the vegetative part of the plant. And what are the vegetative parts? Roots, leaves, stem. Mainly these three parts. Now they bear fruits and flowers earlier as compared to those plants which reproduce through seeds. उनसे जल्दी आते हैं fruits और flowers. New plants are genetically similar to parent plant. Fruits are without seeds. ये भी एक advantage है. And the process is less expensive and easy. Now process of seed formation, how the seed is formed. This diagram you are seeing on the screen, this diagram is not much important that ये ज़्यादातर draw करने के लिए नहीं आता है, but process can be asked from you and from diagram you can easily understand it. First is pollination, that is transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. अब वो cross pollination भी हो सकता है, self pollination भी हो सकता है. Then as the pollen grains stick to stigma, a tube is developed which takes these pollen grains to ovaries. Or inside the pollen grain there are male gametes. Now inside the ovaries, male and female zygote, they fuse together, they form zygote. This is known as fertilization. And after the zygote is formed, it develops into embryo, and then embryo is developed into seed. After the formation of seed, stigma, style, petals, sepals, stamens, all other parts, they fall off. Fine. And then the ovary gets mature, it ripened to form fruit. Inside the fruit there is seed. So this was the process of seed formation. What happens when egg doesn't get fertilized? This question is from the female reproductive system. So thick and spongy lining of the uterus which it prepares every month in the anticipation that fertilization will take place and the embryo will develop in the uterus. तो uterus ऐसा सोच करके अपनी lining को thick और spongy कर लेता है, बहुत सारे tissues with the blood vessels वहाँ इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं. But in case the egg doesn't get fertilized, the thick and spongy lining of uterus breaks down. These tissues come out through vagina as blood and mucus. So this is known as menstrual cycle. Contraceptive method. This is very important question from the exam point of view. And the first method is mechanical barrier. It prevents sperms from reaching eggs. So condoms in males and cervical cap in females are used for this barrier. Chemical methods, they change the hormonal balance of body. Eggs are not released, eggs don't get mature. So in that case, fertilization cannot take place. So oral pills, like you must have seen the ad of eye pill, or in our time Mala D was the common or popular pill for this process, for this method. Third is IUCD, intrauterine contraceptive device, copper T. These are the loops which get inserted in the fallopian tube and that gets blocked. So eggs are not able to reach fallopian tube. In that case, fertilization cannot take place. Surgical method, vesicectomy in males and tuberculotomy in females. In that situation, in vesicectomy, the vas deferens is cut and it is given a knot there. with the help of a surgery, and in tuberculotomy the fallopian tube is blocked or cut. Now in that situation, exosperms, they are not able to come out of the body, and fertilization or conception cannot take place. Reasons for the selection of pea plant by Mendel. So what reasons were there, why he chose pea plant for his experiment? So first of all, the contrasting traits were visible, because like tall and short plant, or round and wrinkled seeds, and white or red flowers. So these were the few traits which were externally very visible. Second reason was short lifespan. Pea plant जो हैं, they give seeds in a short span of time, and they produce many seeds at a time. So जो experiment के results हैं उन्हें observe करना easy हो गया था, and pea plant can undergo self pollination as well as cross pollination. So दोनों options available थे. Now monohybrid cross. So producing the progeny from two organisms with one pair of contrasting trait. This definition won't come in exam, just for the understanding कि जब हम एक पेयर contrasting traits का लेकर के दो organisms को आपस में क्रॉस कराते हैं और नेक्स्ट जनरेशन के organisms प्रोड्यूस करके ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, रिजल्ट्स को एनालाइज करते हैं, दैट इज मोनोहाइब्रिड क्रॉस. सो टॉल एंड शॉर्ट प्लांट का तो आपकी बुक में भी है, बट दिस देयर आई हैव टेकन द एग्जांपल ऑफ रेड फ्लावर एंड वाइट फ्लावर. सो रेड फ्लावर का जो जीनोटाइप है वो कैपिटल आर है, और वाइट फ्लावर का स्मॉल आर. एंड आप यहाँ पे जरूर इस तरह से मेंशन करेंगे कि आप पेरेंट में क्या ले रहे हैं, क्या जीनोटाइप है. देन गेमीट्स में क्या होगा, ये दोनों सेपरेट हो जाएंगे, दोनों क्रोमोसोम्स या जीन्स सेपरेट हो जाएंगे. एंड देन जब इनका क्रॉस होगा तो ये जो आर है, इट मे मीट विद, हियर आई शो यू. सो ये आर combines with this R, so capital R, small r. If this R combines with this R, then capital R, small r. I think यहाँ पर ये वाला R होना चाहिए, yes, this. And if this capital R combines with this R, या थोड़ा सा एरो में डिफरेंस आ गया, but here I am correcting it, तो capital R, small r. If this capital R and this small r, so in that situation also capital R, small r. So in the F1 progeny you are seeing that the genotype is same, capital R, small r, and phenotype क्या होगा, all will be red plants. सब रेड होंगे बिकॉज सिंगल कैपिटल आर इज प्रेजेंट देयर. नाउ F1 को जब क्रॉस कराएंगे तो फिर F2 प्रोजेनी मिलेगा. अगेन द गैमीट्स आर गेटिंग सेपरेटेड and the genotype would be capital R, capital R, capital R, small r, capital R, small r, and small r, small r. So 3 chances कि flower red होगा and 1 chance कि flower white होगा. What about the genotypic ratio? Phenotypic की तो हो गई 3:1, red is to white, and genotype is 1:2:1. Capital R, 1, capital R, small r 2, small r 1. So this question we have already discussed for 1 mark. In that, phenotype or genotype is directly asked. You need not to explain all this. You need not to show this monohybrid cross. In case it is, if the question comes like ki show how the phenotypic ratio or genotypic ratio will be found, then in that case you will show the full monohybrid cross. Otherwise, only the ratios are asked, and you have to write only ratios. Now methods of waste disposal. So biogas plant, the organic waste, it is converted to energy. It is used as a fuel, you already know. Landfill, the heaps of garbage in lower areas, वहाँ इकट्ठा कर दिया जाता है गड्ढा बना के, and then उसके ऊपर जब वो लेवल हाई हो जाता है तो कोई पार्क या ग्राउंड डेवलप कर लिया जाता है. दिल्ली में भी 2-3 जगह पर लैंडफिल्स हैं. सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट, ट्रीटिंग द ड्रेनेज वाटर बिफोर डंपिंग इनटू रिवर्स. ऐसे का ऐसा डंप नहीं किया जाता. रीयूज, यूजिंग द सेम थिंग अगेन एंड अगेन इन न्यू वेज बिफोर मेकिंग इट वेस्ट. फेंकने से पहले बार बार यूज़ कर लेना. वी इंडियंस आर वेरी एक्सपर्ट इन रीयूजिंग. Recycle, non-biodegradable waste is sent for recycling for the preparation of new substances or new items. Fine. So these were the theory questions which we discussed till question number 29 and various parts. Now draw well-labeled diagrams of the following. So in that situation, first diagram is nutrition in amoeba. Here you have to show the food particle, and the most important labeling is pseudopodia. One thing you must keep in mind that the diagrams are important. I have taken here 10 diagrams which are important from the exam point of view. Diagram with drawing is important, but उससे भी ज़्यादा important है labeling. So labeling should be clear and accurate. हेयर यू हैव टू शो सीडोपोडिया, ज़रूर शो करेंगे इसमें. इन केस यू forget to write pseudopodia, you forget to show pseudopodia, then you won't get marks. And then food vacuole. So these are the two terms which we see while checking the answer sheet, pseudopodia and food vacuole. Next is how the glucose gets breakdown. What are the various ways? So this flow chart is important. कि glucose first get converted to pyruvate and some amount of energy is released. This takes place in cytoplasm, but the process is completed in mitochondria. Here the last flow you can see कि in mitochondria this takes place in all the cells of living organism. In the presence of oxygen, glucose is completely broken down and CO2 and water are formed along with 38 ATP. But in our muscles, in case we don't get sufficient oxygen while doing the heavy work and running, in that situation lactic acid and energy is formed, but in that situation energy is formed only 2 ATP. And lactic acid get deposited in our muscles and we feel cramps and pain. Now in yeast, only anaerobic respiration takes place. In the absence of oxygen, the pyruvate is broken down to ethanol and carbon dioxide plus little amount of energy is released, and this process is known as fermentation. We already discussed in short questions. Next is human heart. So here you can see that there are right and left part of the heart. I have drawn this diagram in very simple way as I could do. So in the right auricle, this you can see that vena cava is bringing the blood, deoxygenated blood collected from all the parts of body. Then it is going into right ventricle, and from here it is a pulmonary artery, it is taking it to the lungs. Now pulmonary vein, it is bringing oxygen rich blood from lungs to the left auricle, from left auricle to left ventricle. यहाँ भी walls present होते हैं, but इस diagram में in case you don't show, you the marks cut नहीं होंगे. So left auricle to left ventricle, and from left ventricle you can see aorta, it is taking oxygen rich blood and supplying it to all parts of body. So this is very simple diagram, and with this diagram you can also explain the function of heart, how the blood circulation takes place. Next diagram is excretory system. Children get confused with in the diagram of excretory system and nephron. Sometimes they draw kidneys as nephrons, or they in the place of nephron they draw this diagram. Or sometimes the excretory system diagram is asked, they draw nephron. But be particular. Excretory system, there are these two bean shaped like organs or oval shaped like organs. These are the kidneys. From these, a pair of kidneys, two tubes are coming, a pair of ureters, and from there the urine is getting collected in urinary bladder, and it is coming out of the body through the opening called urethra. So this is very simple diagram, very simple. And these four parts, and sometimes their function is also asked. So kidneys ka function hai formation of urine, ureters are just the carrier of urine from kidneys to urinary bladder, and in urinary bladder urine is collected. It is the storehouse of urine. Now the structure of nephron, again I have tried to make it very simple. You have to wait a minute. Yes, तो ये जो कप शेप ऑर्गन है, दिस इज बोमेंस कैप्सूल, और इसके बीच में जो ये जिगजैग है, दिस इज ग्लोमेरुलस. बेसिकली ये एक सीव की तरह वर्क करते हैं, छलनी की तरह वर्क करते हैं, जहाँ से ब्लड जो है वो फिल्टर हो जाता है. अब ये यूरिन बन चुका है, यूरिन यहीं बन गया ग्लोमेरुलस में, तो ये यहाँ से इस तरह से अपना ट्यूबुलर पार्ट है ये नेफ्रॉन का, और यहाँ से ये होता हुआ कलेक्टिंग डक्ट में इकट्ठा हो जाएगा. इन केस यू फाइंड दिस डायग्राम डिफिकल्ट, एंड दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम द एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, नीड नॉट टू शो दिस रीनल आर्टरी, रीनल वेन, ये शो मत करो. जस्ट दिस ग्लोमेरुलस, बोमेंस कैप्सूल, ये आपका जो कप शेप पार्ट है, दिस इज बोमेंस कैप्सूल. अंदर जो जिगजैग शो करेंगे दैट इज ग्लोमेरुलस, एंड देन दिस ट्यूबुलर पार्ट एंड कलेक्टिंग डक्ट. ओनली दीज फोर पार्ट्स. Show only these four parts, you will get full marks. So आप NCERT में देखेंगे तो डायग्राम वहाँ थोड़ा सा टफ है, तो you can refer these diagrams जो easy करके बनाए गए हैं. Now the structure of flower, इसमें भी आप देखिए बहुत सिंपल है. मेनली जो बीच में पार्ट दिखाया गया है टी शेप का, एंड नीचे जाकर के वो थोड़ा सा सुराही टाइप का, थोड़ा स्वॉलन हो रहा है. दिस इज पिस्टल, जो फीमेल पार्ट है. इसमें ये 3 पार्ट्स हैं. जो ऊपर टी शेप का है दैट इज स्टिग्मा, ट्यूब है दैट इज स्टाइल, और नीचे जो स्वॉलन पार्ट है दैट इज ओवरी, और इसके साइड में बहुत सारे स्टेमन होते हैं विच आर द मेल रिप्रोडक्टिव पार्ट। इनके भी आगे 2 सब पार्ट्स हैं, जो ऊपर आप स्वॉलन पोर्शन देख रहे हैं छोटा सा बलून सा दैट इज एंथर, और जो नीचे उसका ट्यूब है सपोर्टिंग पाइप है दैट इज फिलामेंट, और उसमें जो डॉट डॉट दिखाए गए हैं दे आर पॉलन ग्रेन्स। फाइन, ओनली दीज थिंग्स यू हैव टू शो, 2 parts of stamen and 3 parts of pistil. अमीबा, बाइनरी फिशन इन अमीबा, सो इसमें पेरेंट सेल एंड देन आप थोड़ा सा इलोंगेटेड दिखा देंगे सेल को एंड न्यूक्लियस को, इलोंगेटिंग न्यूक्लियस वहाँ लेबलिंग दे देंगे दोनों में, फिर थोड़ा सा और आपने स्ट्रेच करके दिखा दिया और दोनों पे लेबलिंग सेम है, एंड आफ्टर दैट 2 डॉटर सेल्स बन गए। बहुत सिंपल डायग्राम है, बट अमीबा वर्ड देखते ही समटाइम्स बच्चे उसका डाइजेशन वाला डायग्राम बना देते हैं, एंड समटाइम्स आपसे बाइनरी फिशन पूछा जाता है, तो दोनों में कन्फ्यूज नहीं होना है। हाइड्रा, बडिंग इन हाइड्रा, तो इसमें भी इस तरह से जैसे फ्लावर वास की तरह इसकी शेप है, और नीचे से आप एक बड निकलता हुआ दिखाएंगे, देन उस बड को थोड़ा सा ग्रोइंग बड लिख सकते हैं, एंड लास्ट में वो भी पूरा एक पेरेंट ऑर्गेनिज्म जैसी शेप ले लेगा। एंड देन स्टोमेटा इन लीव्स, सो ये भी यहाँ पर एक बीन शेप के 2 आपने सेल दिखाए, फाइन, विच आर गार्ड सेल्स, और फिर उसमें एक जगह पे कॉर्नर पे न्यूक्लियस आप शो कर देंगे, एंड देन बीच में एक उसी की शेप का एक खाली सा स्पेस दिखा देंगे दैट इज वैक्यूल एंड गार्ड सेल्स। सो दीज आर द 4 लेबलिंग्स फॉर स्टोमेटा, एंड इन दिस केस द स्टोमेटा इज ओपन। इफ़ यू वांट टू शो क्लोज्ड स्टोमेटा, वैसे यूजुअली स्टोमेटा ही आता है, ओपन एंड क्लोज करके स्पेसिफिकली ड्रॉ नहीं बोला होता, बट तब आप इनको थोड़ा सा बीच में ज्वाइन कर देंगे, इनके बीच का स्पेस कम कर देंगे। नेक्स्ट इज सेक्स डिटर्मिनेशन इन ह्यूमंस, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो इन मेल जो सेक्स क्रोमोसोम्स हैं दे आर ऑफ द टाइप एक्स एंड वाई, एंड इन फीमेल्स दिस इज एक्स एक्स, एंड देन अगेन द गैमीट्स विल बी सेपरेट एक्स वाई एंड एक्स एक्स। सो इनका कॉम्बिनेशन अगर एक्स एक्स से कंबाइन होता है तो एक्स एक्स, एक्स वाई से होता है तो एक्स वाई। सो अगेन देर आर 2 चांसेस कि एक्स एक्स से कंबाइन हो, और 2 चांसेस हैं आउट ऑफ 4 वाई एक्स से कंबाइन हो। सो इन केस एक्स एक्स सो दैट इज़ फीमेल, इन केस एक्स वाई दैट इज़ मेल। ये बहुत सिंपल डायग्राम है, इन द एनसीईआरटी जो मेल और फीमेल की फिगर्स बनी हुई हैं, यू नीड नॉट टू फ्रेम दैट, वो नहीं करने की ज़रूरत। यहाँ आप सिर्फ क्रोमोसोम्स, गेमीट्स एंड देन ऑफस्प्रिंग्स में जो जीन्स का कॉम्बिनेशन आएगा वही शो करेंगे। एंड द लास्ट 2 डायग्राम्स आर ऑफ रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम। ये आपके सामने फीमेल रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम है, जिसमें आपने साइड्स में 2 ओवल से स्ट्रक्चर दिखाने हैं विच आर ओवेरीज, वहाँ से ट्यूब डेवलप हो रही है, ट्यूब निकल रही है दैट इज फैलोपियन ट्यूब, और नीचे आकर के ये वी शेप का थोड़ा सा सॉलन सा हिस्सा है दैट इज यूट्रस। मेन इसके ये 3 पार्ट्स हैं, एंड जो यूट्रस की एंड हो रहा है जहाँ पर दैट इज सर्विक्स, एंड जो ओपनिंग है यूट्रस की दैट इज वेजाइना। तो मेन यहाँ पर 3 हैं, 3 पार्ट्स हैं, ओवेरीज, फेलोपियन ट्यूब एंड यूट्रस। समटाइम देयर फंक्शंस आर आल्सो आस्क्ड। सो ओवेरीज का फंक्शन हम ऑलरेडी देख चुके हैं, फेलोपियन ट्यूब का भी एंड यूट्रस का भी। एंड व्हाट अबाउट मेल रिप्रोडक्टिव पार्ट, तो ये भी एनसीईआरटी के कंपैरेटिवली काफ़ी सिंपल वे से बना हुआ है, कि जिसमें आपने 2 अगेन वही ओवल शेप के सर्कुलर शेप के टेस्टिस हैं, जहाँ से ट्यूब लाइक स्ट्रक्चर जो वास्ट डिफरेंस स्टार्ट हो रहा है, एंड वो आकर के कंबाइन हो रहा है, और उसके साइड में प्रोस्टेट ग्लैंड्स शो किए गए हैं। यहाँ एक आपको बीच में भी सर्कुलर सा पोर्शन दिखाया हुआ है, यूरिनरी ब्लैडर, बिकॉज इन मेल्स जो यूरेथ्रा वाला पोर्शन है और जो ये वास्ट डिफरेंस है ये दोनों कंबाइन हो जाते हैं, कहाँ पर चले जाते हैं, पेनिस में। ठीक है, सो इसमें भी 3 पार्ट्स ही मेन है, फर्स्ट इज टेस्टिस, सेकेंड इज वास्ट डिफरेंस, एंड थर्ड इज पेनिस। सो पेनिस तो आउटलेट है स्पर्म्स का, स्पर्म्स फॉर्म कहाँ हो रहे हैं, टेस्टिस में, और वास्ट डिफरेंस जो है वो स्पर्म्स को लेकर के जाते हैं टेस्टिस से पेनिस तक। यहाँ एक क्वेश्चन आई थिंक आई हैव फॉरगॉट टू फ्रेम, एक ये क्वेश्चन है कि वृषण जो हैं ये लाइक टेस्टिस जो हैं वाई दे आर आउटसाइड द बॉडी, बिकॉज द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ स्पर्म्स इट रिक्वायर्स 2 डिग्री लेस टेम्परेचर देन द बॉडी टेम्परेचर, दैट्स वाई द टेस्टिस आर इन a scrotum in a special bag like structure which is a little outside the body, because to maintain less temperature for their formation, for their survival. So this was all about biology. ये बहुत स्कोरिंग है, क्वेश्चंस डायरेक्टली आपसे पूछे जाते हैं। सो इन क्वेश्चंस को आप अच्छे से कर लेंगे, डायग्राम्स की प्रैक्टिस बहुत अच्छे से करेंगे, तो यू विल बी एबल टू स्कोर 28 मार्क्स, पूरे 28 मार्क्स भी आप इसमें स्कोर कर सकते हैं। और ऑलमोस्ट यहाँ मैंने सारे क्वेश्चंस कवर किए हैं। ये एक मोनोहाइब्रिड क्रॉस में थोड़ा सा करेक्शन जो था वो आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड। सो ये क्वेश्चंस की आप प्रैक्टिस कीजिए, वर्ड्स को बहुत इजी, बहुत सिंपल बना दिया है, सो दैट यू कैन लर्न देम ईजिली। और हमेशा नोट्स की तरह ही अपने सारे कंसेप्ट को हमेशा लिखना सीखिए एंड यू रिवाइज इट प्रॉपरली। और उन्हें शॉर्ट वर्ड्स में जब आप किसी चीज़ को कंसाइज कर लेते हैं तो हमारे ब्रेन पर भी बर्डन कम आता है उसे मेमोराइज करने में। सो इट हैज़ ऑलवेज बीन माई टारगेट कि वर्ड जो हैं वो बहुत सिंपल और ईजी हों, सो दैट कि स्टूडेंट्स उन्हें ईजिली लर्न कर पाएँ। So this was biology, and the next week I am going to share important questions of physics with you, and after that the full syllabus will be completed. And you can also contact me, or you can directly message me on Instagram for any kind of your query. In case you like the way of presentation or video, please share it with your friends and classmates. So बने रहिए, keep in touch with me, पढ़ते रहिए, अच्छा स्कोर करिए। Good luck, goodbye.